My next guest is political scientist and politician, Dr. Hayk Martirosyan. Hayk, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You're a member of Azgain-Bever, also known as Armenian National Axis. So what are your current goals?
Well, National Democratic Axis is the only political power in Armenia that has its own very distinctive agenda, and that agenda is, shortly and briefly put, a very simple one: to save Armenia. We don't consider ourselves saviors, but we consider ourselves as a political power that comes up with the only viable solution to get the country out of this disastrous situation that Armenia is in. We understand and realize that what happened was a treason on the side of Russia, and that the military alliance, so-called alliance that everybody in Armenia believed was existent, was actually non-existent. Everybody saw that Russia made a pact, a backdoor deal with Turkey and Azerbaijan, and gave up Armenia and part of Armenia, Artsakh notably, and also parts of Syunik, by the way, to the enemy. By the way, the Russian politicians and analysts confess this as well openly. They're pretty frank about it. Also, President Putin has multiple times voiced his approach and opinion that Artsakh, according to his views, is an Azerbaijani territory and should be in Azerbaijan. He has voiced that a couple of times during his press conferences. So we have registered all of this in our minds. We have analyzed the situation, and we understood that the process is still ongoing. We are the only political power inside Armenia that insists on Armenia breaking away from the Russian military alliance and approaching the US and the West. Of course, the Russian propaganda is pumping up a new type of idea in Armenia through its spokespeople and representatives of its interests, saying that the true national approach and the true solution is in relying on ourselves. We shouldn't be running from Russia to America or to Europe or to anybody else, which is, of course, a nonsense, because in the devastated and destroyed situation Armenia right now is, there is no other solution than finding a powerful and a trustworthy and a reliable ally that will defend Armenia, at least defend Armenia from further incursions. And those incursions are coming. So this is our main agenda at this point. In general, the agenda of the National Democratic Axis is to establish a fully democratic, because let's not kid ourselves, there is no democracy in Armenia at this point. And it's turning into a worse dictatorship than ever before under this usurper, so-called Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. So our agenda is to establish a democratic, fully and truly democratic state, which will be guided by national interests, national ideology, and I want to underscore here, not nationalistic, but national ideology, which is preserving the Armenian identity and inserting it into the national politics. So this is the main agenda at this point.
So at this point, how would we go about actually creating a closer relationship with the US?
It's pretty easy. First of all, this government that has served the Moscow's interests more than any government ever before must go. So there are elections coming. Probably they will take place, probably, even though nobody is sure yet, even at this point. But an election is coming, and we know that heavy-duty rigging and falsifying of the results are going to be taking place, but the people should go out and they should vote for the only political power that will push forward an agenda of rapprochement with the West. There is no other solution in here. Many people, by the way, fear amongst Armenians, and unfortunately, including diaspora, that once Armenia starts its rapprochement with the West, Russia will punish Armenia harshly. Well, I have a surprise for those people. Russia has punished Armenia for no fault and no guilt already. And Russia will do that again, because Russia is not after punishing its subjects. Russia is after following its own interests according to its own vision. Therefore, Russia is going to betray us again. Everything goes towards that direction. Now, if we think that an ally will punish us, it's obviously not an ally. We need to find another ally, a true ally that never punishes its true allies. And we see the West as such an ally. Secondly, we should realize and understand that if United States starts considering Armenia as its ally, and we have came up with a framework with an idea of becoming a non-NATO member ally of major ally of United States. That's an official framework, and there are several countries that have such a status, enjoy such status from with the United States.
And countries, I think Israel, Japan,
yes,
right?
Yes. Therefore, it's an option for Armenia. Once you establish that relationship, or once you're in process of establishing an alliance, any kind of alliance with the West, because right now Armenia is a vassal state, is a complete subject of Russia, unfortunately. Once you do that, United States and the West get involved. We see that in many countries. We see that in Ukraine. We see that in Georgia, where these countries have their independent politics and policies now, and the West, notably the United States, protect them from Russian aggression. Therefore, if people think that Russia will invade Armenia or will let Turkey loose or Azerbaijan loose on Armenia, are just misleading other people or are misled themselves, because United States doesn't need to bring military forces into the region or to put boots on the ground. The United States has a very powerful weapon, and the West, which is the telephone. The leaders of the countries make several uncertain calls, and things are being solved, especially the American leaders. Therefore, all of these fears are baseless, and that's how the process should be. And one more thing, Sona, there is no other solution for Armenia to avoid complete disaster and destruction than becoming a Western ally. No other solution. Our fate will be sealed if we stay in the status quo in terms of foreign policy, which is Russia has made its own decision to leave the region to Turkey and Azerbaijan, who crave for more than a century to own Armenia for themselves. There is no other way out than what's going to be happening. And in order to stop that, the only solution is to become a Western ally.
I ask pretty much all of my guests what is happening in Syunik, and everyone has a different answer. What, according to you right now, is happening in Syunik? What are we looking at?
Thank you for the great question. Syunik, we see that Azerbaijanis have taken the very best positions in Syunik in many, maybe in hundreds of points. They have entered the territory of former Soviet Armenia, because Artsakh was also part of Republic of Armenia, the first republic, and it's legally Armenian territory, still occupied by Azerbaijan though, and now as a result occupied almost completely. But what they do, they have cut even into the Soviet Armenian boundaries, which Azerbaijan and the pro-Turkish Armenian government, the current government, insist is the Armenia proper. We see different footages that leak into the press, where Armenian officers almost without any weapons are trying to defend the land. We have seen a brand new footage today where a shepherd and head of a village are trying to negotiate with Azerbaijanis to allow them to establish a position in front of an Azerbaijani one in order to defend our shepherds, and Azerbaijanis don't allow to do even that. It is completely obvious that the prime minister of Armenia, who's considered a traitor by many, including me, is traveling inside Syunik with a Russian military car exhibiting Russian state flag, which is a disgrace to any country. So if the leader of the country inside its own territory travels under a foreign protection, that means you do not have effective control over your own territory, which means Armenia is a failed state according to all the political science and political definitions. Therefore, we are losing Syunik. Now, yesterday, Nikol Pashinyan has announced, surprisingly, in the parliament, that 2 military outposts of the 102nd Russian military base in Armenia have been established in Syunik. Why has this been done? Because you cannot gift something to a third party unless you own it. Under the pretext and pretense of defending Syunik, Russian forces are establishing presence there, after which they will grant it, or they will grant access, or at least grant the so-called corridor, which is a disaster and the end of Armenia, if it comes to life, to fruition, to Azerbaijanis and Turks, essentially. That's what's happening right now. I don't know what other people are saying about Syunik, but it is undeniable that Armenia doesn't have control over all of the Syunik proper. It is undeniable that every single day, Azerbaijanis are slicing pieces and chunks of Syunik, and it is undeniable that their end goal is taking over the whole Syunik. We can see that even on maps that they exhibit on their own television networks almost daily. Armenia without Syunik and under Azerbaijani control. That's what's happening in Syunik.
Okay, let's talk about the corridor. So why do you say that it will be a disaster?
Because, first of all, that corridor will not be controlled by Armenia. That corridor will be controlled by FSB, which is basically for those who don't know, in the West, which is the KGB, the Russian Special Services. It will be guarded by them and patrolled by them, and Armenia will have zero control over that corridor. That corridor will unite Turkey with Azerbaijan, will unite by land Turkey with Russia. And as we know, there is no direct connection between those countries. So this is very good in Russians' view for Russia. This is the millennia dream of Turkey, and this is a century-old dream of Azerbaijan, to connect the mainland Azerbaijan with the occupied Nakhichevan region of Armenia, which is under Azerbaijani control for a couple of dozen years now, and which is free of Armenians at this point. Why is it the end of Armenia? Because Syunik will die as a result, because the connection between Armenia and Iran will be interrupted, because the population of Syunik will start migrating away and out from Syunik and Armenia, of course. Nobody will relocate from Syunik to Vanadzor or Gyumri or anywhere else. They will just leave the country. And because by making Turkey, the Turkic world, a unified entity, we will put a gravestone upon ourselves. That there is no doubt about it. There is not one Armenian thinker during the past 100 years, a person who hasn't been a traitor, who hasn't voiced a concern, or who hasn't stressed the importance of Syunik being under complete Armenian control. But that corridor is going to be the end of us all.
You and I were first introduced online when there was the spill in Armenia, and the spill was killing our storks, and you were trying to save them. and I was in the States and I was trying to help send some stuff to also save the storks. And you were already expressing your disappointment in the current administration then. And you were talking about the lack of competence in dealing with the issue. And so when the war started, I messaged you and I asked you what your thoughts were. And you said that it was a disaster and that we were in great danger. And to be honest, I was very thrown off by your response and I didn't know what to think. How did you know that it was a disaster?
I mean, I follow very closely Armenian politics. I'm very well connected. I'm part of Armenian politics. And also, I think I have some ability of seeing things from a different perspective. It's all about analyzing or trying to analyze correctly things and facts that lay bare in front of you. And I always have emphasized, I've always paid much attention or great attention to details and insider information and some science. Therefore, I do my own analysis and I always analyze. And those are the conclusions that I come to. By the way, I was I was the only one outside Nikol Pashinyan's own circle who supported him when he was doing the so-called revolution, which turned to be not a revolution, but an operation, a Russian sponsored operation to bring to power with the help of Turkey and with the interest of Turkey, of course, Nikol Pashinyan. None of us knew that, of course. And then I was the first one and the only one, because everybody was afraid to support the movement at that point. But I was thinking that we are doing a true revolution, true democratic forces will come, that Nikol has changed, he has updated his views, and etc., which was actually wrong. But then I can't blame for doing that because the whole Armenian people were supporting him. But then I am the very first one, and I can tell you that officially, I am the very first one who went against him, who voiced his opposition against his policies, and that was early fall 2018. The same year the revolution happened, the same year he came to power. I was the very first one. And then I was the only one for the longest time to be the harshest critic in the whole Armenian sphere of him and his government, because I was seeing what's happening and where all of this is going. The same during the war. During the war, if you remember, there was a self-imposed gag rule and nobody was daring to speak against. And I have voiced a couple of times a grave concern of how things develop, even though I was in the US physically. And I see where it's going right now. It's going towards a very bad place, a very bad direction. And if we don't change anything, we're going to be ending up, I'm sorry to disappoint those who like only good news, who can't handle any bad predictions, who have that problem, mental problem, that they cannot accept the truth that's bitter. I'm sorry to disappoint them, but if we don't change anything, we're going to lose Armenia completely.
What do you feel like should be prioritized if you are to be successful in what you are trying to achieve now? What do you think should be the first steps that we should take for Armenia?
Throwing out this treasonous government, establishing ties, real, true ties with the West, not becoming enemies with Russia, but telling Russians that you got to stop right now because we have to preserve ourselves. We can't sacrifice ourselves for your own interest, which is actually not even in Russian interest, because Russia doesn't understand that the Turkic powers, the Turkey and Azerbaijan, will swallow Russia later on. Russians don't realize it, or they don't even care. They care about the interests of today or whatever, or the interests as they see them, wrongly, of course. But that's none of our concern. We have to deal with the circumstances and the situation on the ground, which is they are handing us over on a platter to Turkey and Azerbaijan. Now, We should do all of this. We should get rid of all the treasonous ideology that's flying around in Armenia. We hear a lot of calls of becoming friends with Turkey, becoming friends with Azerbaijan. All of this treasonous talk, we should get rid of that. And it has nothing to do with silencing people. It's about promoting the true self-preserving national, again, not nationalistic, but national ideas, putting accent on our identity and on the defense of our national interests. That's what the Armenian people have to do. That's what has to be the #1 priority. Practically and technically, what after the change of government should be done is immediately start building alliances and separate alliances with other partners as well, regional partners. Notably, one of the partners could be, let's say, United Arab Emirates, whose interests coincide in this issue with the Armenian interests, and a lot of other countries as well. Start lifting the economy and, of course, putting up defenses, because Armenia is completely defenseless right now, completely defenseless. And rebuilding the army and planning for the future, because everybody understands this status quo cannot continue. It's either Armenia will be destroyed, or Armenia will become what it was before. There is no other way. There is no other solution. There is no peace if everything stays the way it is, if the borders, so-called borders, because there are no borders right now, if the borders stay the way they are at this point, there is no way out of this situation. There are two solutions. Either Armenia is lost completely and forever, or Armenia recovers itself and reestablishes itself and becomes a state with a viable chance of living.
A lot of people thought that after the war, some Armenians were apathetic, and it was really discussed. Why aren't people up in arms? Why aren't they all taking the streets? And why aren't they more active? And I think that a big part of it was just that that disappointment is not a strong enough word, because when you full-heartedly believe in something, and a lot of people believed in the revolution and risked their lives going out there to have the revolution because of an ideology, not specifically to support an entity. So after that disappointment, I think it was all such a demoralizing process that people just didn't know what to believe. Also during the war, a lot of us thought that we were in a much better position during the war, and then we were shocked on November 9th. So now those people, some of whom I know, I saw people in the States also that were following the news every single day in the middle of the night, and they were so concerned. And now they're just completely tuned out because they just feel helpless. They feel like, you know what, I don't know what's going on. I can't know what's going on. So I'm just out. How do we get those people to once again become engaged? Because that's exactly what the enemy wants. They want us all to be just completely hands off, not talking about things, not participating. How do we engage these people again?
Sona, that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. Yes, we should understand that abstracting ourselves from the reality, that washing our hands and saying, oh, I am disappointed, there is nobody I can trust, there is nothing we can do anymore, is a sort of treason. It's a passive type of treason. We do not realize that we become traitors, and that's not an exaggeration in a way, because we still are very patriotic, those of us who are just depressed or stressed or don't know what to do. But inadvertently, we become traitors in a way, because we wash our hands from the most important thing that we have in our lives, and it's our identity, and it's our historic land. It's the country that has given us life, basically. Now, what should we do? We should understand, we should do more research, or we should get more involved again, and we should start adhering or supporting forces that are already on the ground, political forces, and I spoke about National Democratic Axis, Ազգային-Ժողովրդավարական Բևեռին, start these forces to take power in Armenia and bring a solution to the issue, because there is a solution, and this power is coming up, has come up with a proper, normal, working, realistic solution. We just need to support that solution through supporting the people. Number one. Number two, everybody should get involved, and people should understand that after especially this disappointment, we must be foolish and fools and crazies to look or to seek another savior, another demigod, just like many were treating Nicole. Those people do not exist, at least at this point. So what we should do, we should first of all realize that the power lies within us, that the people have the power to change things on the ground and to bring changes to the country's destiny and fate. We should realize that people in Armenia should go en masse into the streets and protest and remove this treasonous government. That's what should be done. Sitting on our hands and following the events from a side is just looking from a side how a traitor is burning our own house from inside. Do we agree with that? No. Will we be happy when Armenia is gone? No. So why do we do this? Do we think that just sticking our heads into the sand is going to change the situation, or it's going to save us, or it's going to make us feel better because we have cut ourselves from the flows of information or depressive news? Vice versa, the depressive news should help us take steps to change the situation on the ground, because we should understand there is no other solution than doing something. Then let's get out, go out and do something. Just let's do something.
How can people know more about you and your political platform and your policies, your vision?
We are all over the place. We are all over the internet. There is my YouTube channel, and I'm posting many materials. Hayk a.Martirosyan. There is Arapapian's, Ambassador Arapapian's page on Facebook. There is National Democratic Axis pages, and we have multiple pages. We have a US page. We have an Armenia-based page. We are all over the place. We're all over the media. We're speaking and talking. I don't understand how can somebody not notice what we say or where we stand or what we represent or who we are. I just don't understand how self-isolated one should be not to have any idea about anything that I just listed. It's all about the will and the wish to follow and to get involved and to get interested. Again, let me repeat this again. Self-isolation from the realities or depressive news of Armenia at this point is a type of involuntary treason. Let's not do that.
Thank you, Hayk.
Thank you, Sona.
Thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.